Most of the time, I tell you this wonderful sentence at the beginning of the show. It says that Switchcraft is brought to you live 3 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, and on Saturday at whatever time I can get to it, and that you could find the show by tuning in live over at twitch.tv/runjumpstomp. But I can't tell you that today, because right now it is Thursday at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, and I am very much not live at twitch.tv/runjumpstomp. In fact, I'm not live anywhere. I am away from the internet. I'm at a faculty meeting, and then I've got to take my son to a doctor's appointment after that. So there's no way for me to get this this show out live. So what did I do instead? Well, I was very lucky in that I was talking to Jake from Community Controller, and he said that he would come on and do an interview with me, which is awesome. And as you can finally hear, my voice after an entire day of sleep and no talking at all, like my voice is almost back to normal. I'm still a little stuffy, but I'm starting to feel a lot better. So no more sickness, which is great because we've got important things coming up really soon. And it also made it so that I could sit down with Jake and we could talk about his project where the internet plays video games for him. It's a really, really fun interview, and Jake and I had a fun time talking about it. If you didn't know, this episode of Switchcraft is brought to you by patrons just like you. You can support Switchcraft and my other content for as little as $1 and get an extra podcast, which is exclusive to only patrons. Although there's been like a week since I had a podcast for the patrons, and that's because I've been sick. But I've got a couple of stories that I'm going to want to talk about on the Patreon podcast, so make sure that you tune in over there. Anyway, don't forget that, what else do I have to say before I get out of here? Oh, yes. Make sure that you swing by runjumpstomp.com/thank-you. All of the links there help me create more content like this. So if you like this stuff, make sure you swing by over there. Thank you guys for your support, and I am out of here. Here is the interview with Jake from Community Controller.
Buy an Odyssey 2 now and get $82 worth of free games, including Pickaxe Pete.
So I am joined today by Jake. He works over at OP Seton. I was recently on their podcast, and they reached out and said, hey, you should talk to Jake. He's got this really cool project. And I said, well, what is the project? And it's basically called Community Controller. So, Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about Community Controller?
Absolutely. So, Community Controller is an innovation of the Twitch Plays phenomenon that popped up about 5 years ago in the form of Twitch Plays Pokemon, where they believed through what I believe was Pokemon Red at the time. So, what I wanted to do with Community Controller was I loved the phenomenon that got me through a lot of times in high school because I wasn't a very good student, so I was playing after class. I always loved the idea of it, but one thing I noticed was missing was it did not have a community behind it.
All right, before you go any further, let me ask you a quick question. So can you explain exactly what is happening with, for example, you said that you were looking at Twitch Plays Pokemon, and to somebody who doesn't really pay attention to Twitch, they might not really know what you mean by that. So what exactly is happening in this Twitch Plays phenomenon?
Okay, so for those who are not familiar with the Twitch Plays phenomenon, but might know a little bit about Twitch, all live streamers have a little chat box under your stream itself, or like a YouTube video has a comment section. And while your favorite streamer, whoever you're watching, is streaming, you can talk to them via that chat box or a comment section, and they can see everything you're saying in real time. So what the Twitch Plays does is it will take those comments and, for example, if you type up in the comments, it'll translate that to an actual control within a game, and it'll make your character say walk up if you type up.
Okay. And so basically you get large groups of people to work together to overcome some challenge. In the case of the first one, it was Twitch playing Pokemon Red. What did Community Controller do to differentiate what did you do to differentiate yourself from the other Twitch Plays things?
Now, the big obvious thing we did was we moved to the Nintendo Switch, which hasn't been done yet because Nintendo Switch is such a new system. It really doesn't have much in the form of modifications or homebrew yet. And with this move to Nintendo Switch, we're able to do offer much larger and more complicated games like Super Mario Odyssey or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which nobody's really seen in the Twitch play genre yet, with the exception of something like Twitch plays Dark Souls. But that game in the end ended up being nerfed a little bit to make it be turned into a turn-based game.
Oh, okay. So how is it that you accomplish this? Because I am like I've been in like I've watched this before, and I've gone in and I see people like 300 people are typing different commands. How does the well, first off, before we even get to how does the robot figure out what to do, what exactly is the equipment that you needed to do this?
Well, the equipment's still a little hidden, but I can give you some of what it uses. It
Okay.
uses a Raspberry Pi and a reverse engineered Pro controller that our community lovingly calls Jimbo.
Okay.
And then he's connected to Raspberry Pi using everybody's favorite programming language that some people have mixed opinions on, Python, which is connected with Twitch's horrible API.
Okay.
But he reads chat directly through there, and he sends the inputs directly to Jimbo or every text chat. I hope that makes sense. If not, I'd be happy to elaborate.
No, okay. So let me see if I understand this right. So you've got basically this bot sitting in chat, and it reads what people say, and if they say up, then the Raspberry Pi takes that information and says, okay, push this button on the controller. Like, is it a wire connected to that controller?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Wire connected directly to a controller.
So, like, but is the controller, like, usable, or is it just, like, open with, like, things soldered on?
Well,
if you can answer that.
Define usable. I
like,
can use it if
I
I'm
wanted
very
to...
delicate and careful, but...
Okay. But if I wanted to sit down and, like, play Splatoon...
No, it would be better to pick up another controller in that case.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's all torn apart, basically.
Yes. I
Awesome.
can use it to do small little adjustments like back up a save game, but it's a little finicky.
So when you're like, let's say that you go live with Community Controller, which twitch.tv/community controller, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so go there now and hit follow. All right, guys. If you go live with that, are you sitting there watching people, like, watching it happen, or does it run when, like, you're at work or something, so that people are just continuing to try and push your progress along through a game?
It's generally a 24/7 stream. It's actually been running pretty close to 24/7 since March of last year. But currently, we're down for about a week just for me to test new things and try to bring it to another direction because our last few games have been failing with the community-wise.
Oh, okay.
But
So
it's generally a 24/7 stream. It just runs constantly with that bot.
Gotcha. Okay. So my next question, I guess, is, so you said that it failed at some games. What were the games that it failed at, and can you get into why it didn't work?
Well, the games that failed out recently was really only two games. It was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which that failed mostly because that game wants to be so precise with things like vine climbing. It was just near impossible for Twitch to do and time that correctly, especially with the 2 or 3 second delay they have. Because what Twitch is, for those also who aren't familiar, you don't see everything in real time. You're always going to be at least 2 seconds behind, no matter what, of what the streamer's actually seeing and you're seeing on your side.
Right.
So by the time you type, say, like jumping in chat, you're not going to see the character jump on stream for another, depending on your internet connection, 3 to 10 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
I run into this all the time because I'd be playing a game and I'm running around in circles looking for whatever the MacGuffin is, and somebody in chat's like, "You just passed it," and I don't see that. Like, I don't see that right away. So by the time I see, oh, I just passed it, that means I got to go back and look for it, or they'll say it's on your left or something like that. But
yeah.
I've turned the corner 6-7 times by the time they realize that it was on the left. So I got to go back, and it's kind of a pain.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself when I started my personal stream. When I was playing through Breath of the Wild, which I did not know how bad I was at that game. I started streaming it. Like, oh, what's
Well,
wrong with your
you've
puzzle
got to be
solution's right
better.
there.
I'm sorry.
They're like, oh, hey, what's wrong with you? The puzzle solution's right there. What do you mean right there? That's 10 seconds ago. There's a lot of right there's.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so there's the delay that you have to that you have to worry about, and you failed at Donkey Kong because the delay was just too much for your setup to be able to really deal with. The other game was Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you said?
The DLC, Torna, the
The
Golden
deal oh the
Country, I believe it's
Torna,
called.
okay. So well, have you finished the original?
Yes, we have. We finished that. Actually, that's the fastest game we ever completed. Believe it or not, we completed that in
Oh,
like
that's
2.5 weeks.
that's really surprising. Okay, so what was different about the DLC that made it more difficult for you to finish the game than the original?
That I can't really say. Not just like me being secretive. We're honestly not sure. That's why the
Oh,
stream is
okay.
also down to do all this beta testing right now and try new things out. Because a lot
Gotcha.
of our community are people to play through Xenoblade. Like we had some of the speedrun world record holders playing it. They're loving it. Like, oh yeah, play Torna after this. We switched to Torna afterwards. Smoothest transition of the channel yet with control wise and Jimbo switching to a new game. Just nobody showed up and played it.
Oh, okay.
So
Maybe so it was just that there weren't enough people to make it happen.
yes, pretty much. There
Oh,
would be
okay.
like no progress being made for hours at end, and then when somebody finally shows to make progress, they'll only make like financial progress.
Yeah, I think, and I've run into this issue when I streamed before too, is playing a new game, especially a game that is story heavy. A lot of people who would be like my biggest supporters on Twitch would say, "I'm not coming because I don't want spoilers. I want to find out this stuff myself." So
Yes,
I would say if you're gonna give Torna another try, I would do it a couple months down the road where people have already figured everything out, and if they don't want to be spoiled, then they probably have already gotten past that stuff by then.
that's a great suggestion. Thank you. I really didn't even think of that. That's a good idea.
So my next question, I guess, is that how how does it work where you've got people in chat shouting up, left, down, right, B, X, jump, all these different commands. How do you parse that to get the game to actually do what you want it to do? Because the first time that I heard, because you've like your system beat Breath of the Wild, right?
Correct.
Right. So I mean that was a pretty, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's really impressive to somehow get a group of people to work together to get something like that to happen. So how do you get the all the different things that are being thrown at Jimbo? How do you get Jimbo to decide which is the right thing?
Well, Jimbo's a little dumb. That's why we have a few emotes of him just getting confused. He gets confused from time to time, so it's not perfect. But the best way I handle it currently, he parses messages, is he forms a little bit of a queue. So when somebody we had like in Breath of the Wild, we use that as a good example. We had 8 command limit, so for that somebody can enter at a time. Like if you want to enter a command, you can enter up to 8 commands in the queue. The next person can enter 8 or less, and so on and so forth. And what Jimbo would do is he'd run through that queue one at a time. He wouldn't do everything at the same time, if that makes sense. So you put up, down, left, right. You go up, then you go left, then you go down, then he would go right. He wouldn't do it all at once to confuse himself.
Okay. So if you and I are both saying things at the same time, then like I say up and then I'm getting ready to type left and you type down, it ignores what you type until it finishes the 8 commands that I said.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes
So it
sense.
gives him a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, that clears things up. And like I watched a little bit and it looks like you use the pause function a lot. What is the reason for that?
Oh, the pause buffering. All right, so since we're doing these bigger games, our community found out it helps a lot if you pause buffer, which I don't know if there's another term for it. I know it's a popular term with speedrunning to get like frame perfect jumps.
Yes, yes. I've seen that before on Summer Games Done Quick.
Yes. So they pretty much use that to help combat that Twitch delay. They'll enter a few strings of commands, they'll pause it, let it catch up, make sure they landed where they thought they're going to land, unpause it, then continue.
Awesome. What games have you has Jimbo completed so far?
We did it in order. We did Kirby Star Allies. That we actually launched the channel the day that game came out, exactly at midnight. So we did Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, and I believe Xenoblade was the other one. Oh, no, we also did Ocarina of Time. I lied. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's awesome. And what's going to be your next game that you want to tackle after your round of beta testing is done?
We're looking at doing a Link to the Past since I got Jimbo working with the Nintendo 3DS. So we're going to try to go through a series of Zelda games to try to combat the issue we have with Torna, where not many people are playing it. So we figure if we went through a series of Zelda games, all the people who hung out with Zelda would like to play the next Zelda game we play. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome, man. And when do you expect to have Community Controller back online?
Whenever I drive to Best Buy, I just need to get another micro B cable for my 3DS capture card. It's 30 minutes away. I didn't feel like doing it today.
So you're pretty much at the end of your beta testing then.
Yes, 3DS Jimbo is kind of stupid in comparison. Like he's a little dumbed down, but he should work because we played through Ocarina of Time with him.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling me about your project. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
You can find me on twitch.tv/communitycontroller. If you'd rather follow us on Twitter for all updates, it could be twitter.com/red7s.
Thanks so much for coming on the show, Jake. I really appreciate it. It was fun to talk to you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a great time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.